Welcome to the Eagle Experience, the podcast where we bring on former teachers and students to talk about how Chestatee affected their life and their Chestatee experience as a whole. Let's get straight into it. This is episode 1. Who are you? What did you do? And what is your current job title? And how was Chestatee for you?
Sure. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here. And on episode 1 at that. So I'm Suzanne Jarrard. My current job is that I'm the Executive Director of Secondary Education for the Hall County School District. So that means that really I'm in charge of middle schools and high schools and all that encompasses with teaching and learning. But prior to that job, my job centered around being a teacher first and then a principal. So I started my career actually at North Hall Middle, and when Chestatee Middle at the time opened, I transferred here as a teacher. So I taught right here in this building in the 7th grade hallway. I taught science right when the school started.
All right. Let's get straight into it with some action. What is the most memorable experience? Now, this may be hard, or some of the most memorable experiences you've had at Chestatee.
Wow. Well, as I was stating, I've been at Chestatee since Chestatee existed. So I started as a teacher. I then switched into an assistant principal role, and then I was blessed enough to be principal here before I moved to the high school to be principal. So I have lots and lots of memories. I'm thinking back to some of my very first memories, and that, Zach, was when we were tasked with the idea of naming the school. We were tasked with identifying the mascot for the school and the colors for the school. So I was involved. I was lucky enough to be involved on the ground of Chestatee. Before Chestatee was Chestatee, it was called Northwest Middle School.
Wow.
And so we got a small group of teachers and the principals and parents, and we got the opportunity to name the school. So Chestatee was the name that we came up with.
Wow. All right, let's get straight into it. Can you think of any colleagues or students who taught you lessons, life lessons, or maybe academic things?
Wow. Well, anytime you're a teacher, you know, our job is to teach. And so everyone thinks, oh, a teacher, they're the ones who teach all the things, they know the things, and they impart the knowledge and the wisdom to students. But it is amazing that in reality, we as teachers learn as much or more than we're teaching students. So when you ask me, think of any students or any person that might have affected me, good grief, the length of that list. But I'm thinking in particular a student that I had. It was a family that went through here, and they had multiple students.
Okay.
Multiple kids in one family. In fact, interestingly enough, I just saw one last night when I was out and about in the community. But this group of siblings that went through here all had just a work ethic like I had never seen before. And all of them did. They would come from what I might call maybe not middle class. So they really had to work hard. They came from a single parent home at the time. And I was just amazed at how they excelled academically, how they excelled athletically. And now, having the opportunity to see them as adults, they are all successful adults, college educations. Some are doctors, there's a lawyer, and there's even a Olympian in the family. And so that family instilled in me the value of hard work, being kind, and being consistent, and just working hard to accomplish your goals.
Interesting. And I think really here at Chestatee, we focus on the learning aspect and being a family and treating each other with respect and kindness. And I think that promotes a lot of those principles of hard work and ethic and all those things that make such successful people.
They absolutely exemplified that.
All right. Now on to a bit of a hard topic. How did COVID impact your work, and what did it teach you, and how did it really change the entire aspect of how you were working and everything?
Yes, the C word, COVID. So during COVID, I was actually principal at the high school.
Oh, okay.
So during that time, my position was principal at the high school and director of secondary education. So I sort of split that role.
Right.
So I was able to, at the district office, help create practices and policies that we followed. And then as the principal, actually implement those practices and policies. So while that was a difficult job to share the two responsibilities, during that particular time, it was super helpful. Because sometimes, when you're in charge of making a practice or a policy, you think it sounds wonderful. And then you begin to try to implement it, and you see, that wasn't so great.
So you think those two aspects really helped you?
Oh, I absolutely think it helped me personally and the district as a whole. We learned many things during COVID. We learned to be flexible. We learned to try new things. We had to be innovative. We had to move on the fly and make decisions. And I think all of that ended up being a good thing. We learned to trust one another. We learned to work collaboratively. While there were many things that were hard during COVID, I think those lessons that we learned are even beneficial today. Like, for instance, we really had to dive in to learn how to use Canvas. We had to learn online. We had to learn Zoom and some of those things that we had not learned before. And some of those things we still do today. Now, one thing that I think happened is that we might have become a little too reliant on technology during that time. That is one thing that we're trying to recover now, is that we oftentimes see maybe too much online learning when we need to get back to doing what you and I are doing, talking, learning from each other in conversation rather than just diving only into technology.
Now, for some of our listeners who may have been at Chestatee before Canvas, do you mind giving us a brief summary of what Canvas is and how it affects learning environment and how do we use it?
Yes, great call. So Canvas is really our learning management system. And so it is a platform by which students and teachers can interact. Teachers can put their assignments on Canvas, and then students can access them through there. So you can even take tests on them, or you can turn in your assignments through Canvas. So again, it's sort of like an online filing cabinet, if you will.
Yeah. Now, one of our other topics is SOAR. Now, before we get into it, do you mind explaining what SOAR is and what it stands for?
Well, I would love to explain what SOAR is because I was lucky enough to be here when we implemented SOAR. So you're really going to test me here. What does SOAR stand for? You might have to help me.
Seeking
out authentic
relationships.
How about that?
Wow.
I haven't thought about that in a while. Okay, so I can absolutely tell you what it is. So when I was here as principal, we were trying to decide what would take Chestatee to the next level, what would help better engage our students. And so I was exploring those ideas with a group of colleagues. And Sardis, which is a feeder school here, they were doing enrichment academies. And so I went down and I learned about the enrichment academies, and we as a group decided that might be something that we wanted to explore here. So a group of us went to Connecticut, where we learned there at the university about this model and how it could be implemented into a middle school. And so the idea is that students are able to, of a portion of their time here, examine something that they're passionate about, that they might not get to study in a traditional day. And that is how that came about. When I was here, Zach, I actually led one of those. Obviously, I'm a little passionate about education and about folks becoming teachers. So I led a SOAR Academy on education. So I had a group of students that came and learned with me about what it might look like to be a teacher. So we devised educational games, and then we went down to Sardis, actually, and taught them.
Wow. All right. Now, on the topic of leadership, how did your role change from being a teacher to an administrative position, and how did it affect your life and how your career worked?
Wow, that is an excellent question. Well, I struggled, quite frankly, when I was when the opportunity came to be an administrator. I struggled leaving teaching because I love teaching. I'm really a teacher at heart, and so I really struggled with the decision to leave the classroom and move into administration. In fact, so much so that my very first administrative job, again here at Chestatee Academy, I was a half-time teacher and a half-time assistant principal. So I held on to both of those roles for a while. But as I've gone into administration, I have loved it. What I have learned is that it allows me to help more people. So I can help teachers become better teachers, who then can become better teachers for students, and then therefore students can be more successful. Being an administrator is very much like being a teacher because you're constantly teaching. You're teaching teachers, you're teaching students still. So I found the parallels that were very, very similar. One difference in administration is just the weight of the decisions. So every decision you make, impacts the student. And so you really have to be thoughtful and make sure that you're making decisions that are best for students that might not be as popular with all the adults.
Yeah. Do you have any advice that you would give to some of our current Chestatee students who are listening in?
Wow. Well, Chestatee is a special place. Even though my job now is to be the director of all middle schools and all high schools, it's really hard to get away from my roots of Chestatee. Folks always say to me, we know on the inside you have maroon. So absolutely, I think Chestatee is a special place. I don't know if you know this, but the word Chestatee means place of light. Did you know that?
I think I've heard that in one of your speeches.
Yes. And so I love that means place of light. And so if you're a place of light, that means that you guide other people, right? Lights guide other people in the dark. We need light so that we can see. So my advice to Chestatee folks is to embody that legacy that you have as a Chestatee student. Be a light. Be that lead family that we always encourage here. Be a light and lead others into the positive. Make a difference in a positive way.
All right. Now, on the topic of family and how we're really all connected here at Chestatee, do you have any advice to upcoming Chestatee students or their family who's thinking about bringing them here?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, again, I am biased toward Chestatee. Being here for so very long, honestly, I was here when there was no floor yet. I was here when the lights were hanging because it was still in construction. And so I know many, many of the teachers who are here. And quite frankly, I've been lucky enough to hire several of the teachers. Ms. Kogod, actually, was my assistant principal when I was here as principal. So my advice is come to Chestatee, get involved, find something here. Chestatee is a wonderful place with wonderful teachers who really are interested in the best for their students.
Now, still talking about this community relationship, tell us about things that you did in your administrative positions like tape to wall and dunk tank.
Oh, dear. You've been talking to people, haven't you? Well, anything for students, right? So I have done a myriad of things. I was taped to the wall. I was really nervous about that. I think that had something to do with a reading goal. And so they had me stand on a crate, and they literally put duct tape all over me, and they took that crate out, and there I was stuck to the wall. They did come back and get me, which was nice. So I've had that happen. I've had my hair washed in pudding. I've been pied. One of the craziest things that I did was if a reading goal was met, I can clog. I don't know if you know what clogging
what
is.
is
Do you know
that?
what clogging is?
No.
Sort of like a buck dance. It's like a river dance. You'll have to look it up.
All right.
So someone found out that I could clog, and they challenged me to clog if we met a goal. And so I said, sure, I'll clog. Well, I'm a little short. And so I was in the lunchroom, and I was trying to clog, and they couldn't see me. And so some students said, get on the table, Miss Jarrard. So Zach, I did.
Oh.
I got on the lunchroom table, and I clogged from one end of the lunchroom table to the other end of the lunchroom table. All because the students met their reading goal.
Wow. All right. Now, to sort of start things to wrap up, we hear about learn, lead, family. How is Chestatee a family to you, with some examples? And I think we know the answer to this one. Do you still think it's a family to you?
Absolutely. Chestatee will always be my family. In fact, Zach, quite frankly, my whole family is a Chestatee War Eagle. I have 2 daughters, and they both went to middle school and graduated from Chestatee. So their diplomas say Chestatee. So quite frankly, they are. My dad was, who I think, he has passed away now, but he was the biggest War Eagle fan that there was. In fact, there is a little plaque to him. He went to every single Chestatee football game, home and away with me. And so they have a little plaque dedicated to him at the high school. Even today, I can go right up there and sit where he sat for all those games. So quite frankly, Chestatee really is family to me. I have one granddaughter, and my hope and prayer is that she too becomes a War Eagle. So I think Chestatee has produced many, many leaders. Again, It is a family-like atmosphere. My own family are Chestatee War Eagles. I failed to mention that I have two sisters. Both are War Eagles. One retired here as a teacher, and the other retired as a parapro from the high school. So family runs deep here.
Yeah. All right. Now, we're almost done. Do you have anything else you'd like to share before we finally close things up?
Just thank you again for allowing me to be episode 1. Chestatee will always be a special place. Again, I was here when the building was being built. I was lucky enough to decide that we were going to, or be a part of the decision that we were going to be War Eagles. I love that eagle. I'm looking at this picture up here of this eagle beside me. One very interesting thing about eagles that I think is appropriate for Chestatee are that eagles run to the problem, right? When there is a storm, they soar right above it. They don't fly away. They go right to it. And I think that just really encapsulates what War Eagles do. Chestatee students are problem solvers. They are not afraid to go to a challenge and to solve it. So I'm super proud of my War Eagle heritage.
All right. Thank you. And that is the end of episode 1 of the Eagle Experience. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you later.